We ain't got no charges for Paleantano, but they trying to introduce new legislation to make throwing water on the police a freaking felony.
This detestable anti-police narrative has created a divisive climate, an us versus them mentality. This cannot stand.
Generation is pretty much just expressing ourselves, and because it's a lot of black males getting killed over nothing they do.
We must send a strong message that such acts will not be tolerated. We must end this cruel and infectious behavior before it escalates to a life-threatening attack.
Police need your help in identifying another person wanted for one of those water dousing incidents. Police released this video of a man spraying water on two traffic enforcement agents. This is in Queens. Happened Wednesday afternoon, 86th Street, Jamaica Avenue.
We will not wait until these attacks spread like wildfire against the law enforcement community. That is why I proudly introduced legislation supported and promoted by the New York City PBA and all of our police unions that stand with me from across this great city and Long Island. This legislation will criminalize this despicable behavior. And now I speak to you directly, Mayor Bill de Blasio. I challenge you tonight to use your national platform at the Democratic presidential debate to unequivocally condemn these attacks and proclaim your full support and respect for the sacrifice of our officers, the sacrifice they make each day in the city, across the state, and our nation's borders to keep our families safe, to keep your family safe. Talk is cheap, actions speak louder than words.
It's not acceptable for anyone to resist arrest. It's not acceptable for anyone to interfere with the NYPD when they're effectuating an arrest. Throwing things at an NYPD officer is not only not acceptable, it can lead to charges.
The police union released a statement saying our anti-cop lawmakers have gotten their wish. The NYPD is now frozen. It's the end result of the torrent of bad policies and anti-police rhetoric that has been streaming out of City Hall for years.
Well, a scene of complete disrespect for New York's finest. Police officers trying to do their jobs, attacked by a group of people throwing buckets of water at them in Harlem. And that's not the only time it's happened. Here's Eyewitness News reporter Jim Dolan.
See these people throwing water at them. Looking at the video from Harlem can be difficult as an officer is drenched with water and then pelted with a bucket, though clearly not assaulted in a manner that was likely to result in serious injury. The video has no context what preceded it or followed it. It happened over the sweltering weekend. An officer in Harlem who's making an arrest has buckets of water and then the bucket thrown at him. He doesn't appear to react to it. Another video from Brownsville, Brooklyn, appears to involve officers who were deliberately cooling down with residents. People on the street in Harlem, where one of the two incidents happened, had varying degrees of support and sympathy for the police.
That's bad. I mean, you shouldn't be throwing water if somebody's getting arrested. This is obviously bad. I mean, I don't know what the person was getting arrested for, but, that's illegal.
But not everyone saw it that way.
I feel like that's just how our young generation is pretty much just expressing ourselves, and because it's a lot of black males getting killed over nothing they do.
Just about everyone here admitted there is some simmering hostility toward the police.
Yes, and long term it's been forever, but as several weeks or something, no.
Nothing recent happened.
No.
Over the long haul, for sure.
Yes.
Police are investigating the Harlem incident as an assault on a police officer.
The message here is not to be aggressive. Now, if we're dealing with an ordinary citizen that's having a problem, absolutely. There is no need for aggression. When you're dealing with a mope trying to dump water over your head, or worse, you have to go in seriously and give that message. We cannot look at it as an isolated situation. So it's easy to take this legislation and say, well, why would we do that? Let's look at all the other pieces of legislation that have passed that soften the police department to a point where we're not effective on the street. They're asking police officers just to walk away and take it. Well, I'm a kid from Queens. In your neighborhood, would you just walk away and take it when someone dumped a bucket of water on your head? Or would you call the police?
on, don't come back. Don't go back. What? Don't come back. It is a new boy running with him now.
Come on, y'all. We were riding down this block, and these white people start saying, "Get out of here, niggas. You know, get out of my neighborhood. Don't come to this neighborhood." Then they start hitting on her. Throwing rocks and everything else. Throwing rocks. Because we were in their neighborhood.
We went on a bike hike to McDonald's. We didn't mean to bother anybody.
We had a nice
saw a parade. We saw a gathering, so we went down there to see what was happening. All right. I mean, we didn't bother anybody. We weren't looking for trouble. I never even know people around here were like that. I've never experienced anything like this in my life.
What happened to you?
Nothing happened to me, but this little boy, short boy about my size, or little short, had picked up a rock, and he was in the front of all these tall honkies. Right? He threw the rock. He tried to hit my sister, but he almost hit me about that much away from me. And I was sure where she had. He hit me with that rock. I would pick up the rock right next to me and hit him right then in his face. They always say niggas are doing everything. They always say we're doing everything, right? We don't read it every time the white people come down the block. We don't push them out their neighborhood and throw rocks and start hitting them. We don't bother the white people around our neighborhood, but when we get in a white neighborhood, they just push us out. Yeah.
So now you call the police. Should we just walk away and take it? If the politicians that say it's okay, that say we shouldn't have this legislation, had a bucket of water dumped over their head, what would they do? I have the answer. They would call their connections. They'd call the brass in the NYPD. And you know what they'd get? They'd get a response. They'd expect a response. Well, the kids from Queens, the cops in all our boroughs, we expect a response too. Common sense says you don't dump a bucket of anything on a police officer responding to an emergency call. And I say this, how dare you expect New York City police officers to accept what you won't accept? We're out there doing a job. We do it well. We are the most restrained police department in the country. That's not just a throwaway line, that's a fact. We know how to do our job. So we need to have a dialogue. Remember, a dialogue goes both directions. Both directions. We're the most restrained. We're the best trained. We know how to do our job. We know the street. So let's start the dialogue. And the dialogue should be, officer, is this okay? Absolutely not. Because if you go to the scene from a position of weakness, it only escalates. If you go to the scene from a position of strength, with backing from City Hall, backing from the law, backing from the community, the job will get done.
The Department of Justice not going after Officer Pantaleo, that, Officer Pantaleo used a chokehold that was prohibited by NYPD. He did that for 7 seconds, 11 different times. Eric Garner said that he couldn't breathe. He knew what he was doing, that he was killing Eric Garner, and yet he has not been brought to justice. That police officer should be off the street.
Mayor DeVazio, why is that police officer still on the force, the one who killed Eric Gardner? Please respond.
Let me tell you, I know the Garner family. They've gone through extraordinary pain. They are waiting for justice, and they're going to get justice. There's finally going to be justice. I have confidence in that in the next 30 days in New York. You know why? Because for the first time, we are not waiting on the federal Justice Department, which told the city of New York that we could not proceed because the Justice Department was pursuing their prosecution. And years went by, and a lot of pain accrued. And in the meantime, what I'm working on is making sure, and I have for 5 years, there will never be another tragedy. There'll never be another Eric Garner because we're changing fundamentally how we police.
Thank you, Mayor.
But there's one last point I have to say about the Justice Department. The Vice President, for 2.5 of those years, Mr. Vice President, tell us, what did you do to try and spur on the Justice Department to act in the Garner case?
The guy in Queens, they're charging him with obstructing governmental administration and harassment. And then you heard that the guys in Harlem, they're investigating them for assault on a police officer. So my question is, why do we need a new law on the books? This is a problem. Now, one thing that's making my melanin tingle is I remember a few months ago, or maybe it was even last year now, that there was a senator, like it was like Mill Basin, not the black part of Brooklyn. And he was trying to get a law on the books for the Good Samaritan law, to extend it to protect people that would help the police. And that seemed like he never went any further. Now, I don't know if that had anything to do with us or what, but this is kind of like, I don't quite understand it yet, but something about this is making my melanin tingle. We don't need no new laws on the books. Any new laws is laws for us, because we already see that where they pick and choose who they want to prosecute. And as far as de Blasio is concerned, you got 30 days. I won't be holding my breath. Will you?